The AMS Flex Fuel kit for the 2023 Nissan Z is in this box. I think this will be a pretty straightforward install, so let's go ahead and get to it. All right, so first things first, you're gonna wanna lift up the car. Now that the car's jacked up, you're gonna wanna remove this cover with a number 5 Allen bolt socket or Allen key. You're gonna remove this battery tray, just a few plastic rivets. Same for this cowling. It's been a while since I turned on this car. I've opened the doors, the lights were on for a while. I wanna see how much battery this anti-gravity battery still has. It's been about 3 weeks. Let's check. And by the way, I haven't even put this on a trickle charger. 3 lights means it's full. I am extremely impressed with this battery, guys. It's powerful, small, lightweight, and you can get 10% off using my code ZillaFullBoost10 at checkout. Link will be in the description. So how can you even beat that? All right, so now you wanna get your pliers because you're gonna be disconnecting, unclipping the harnesses off of this bracket right here. Same bracket that comes in the Q50. So if you're familiar with the VR30, this would be cake for you. Now you gotta remove this bracket. There is a 12mm bolt back there, which is tough to get to unless you pull this clip up. You have to remove that 12mm bolt, but in order to do so, you gotta pull this clip out. So lift up on the orange retainer, on the orange clip, and then you're gonna pull back on this tab here and up. And now you have access to use a socket onto that bolt. So you're gonna pull that bolt off and that bolt as well. There was one clip that I couldn't get to back here, and now I can. Now that bracket's out. So before we open the fuel system, what I like to do is kind of clean the engine bay a little bit. Either blow air or suck it up with a shop vac. But let me kind of show you what I'm talking about. You see all that sand? That can get inside of your fuel line and clog an injector. That's one of the, if not the major cause of injector failures. So make sure you get that cleaned. Okay, so now with the engine bay pretty much cleaned up, you're gonna wanna unbolt that bolt right there, this one, that one. You're gonna pull this black bracket off as well. So that bolt, that one down there, remove the clip from there. That way you can unclip this fuel harness and as well as this one. And you're gonna pull this entire fuel line with the damper out of the car. So a ratcheting open end wrench did the trick with this bolt right here. All right. So now, see that purple clip? We're gonna loosen it. It's gonna spread the legs, pull it back. I'm gonna use this, capture any fuel that's gonna come out right now, if any, just little drops. You have 2 bolts holding down this damper. Loosen those, 10mm. I think you end up reusing these. So same concept with this line. You got a clip back here. You gotta unfasten. Okay, so now it's gonna be a little more tedious. There is a blue retainer, that guy right there. It's attached to this fuel line, and it's a safety retainer. That way this clip doesn't come off. So it's pretty tight in there, and the easiest way to gain access is to remove the lower downpipe off the passenger side. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. And that's why I've decided now to actually do my full downpipes. I'm crazy, but hey, if we're removing one lower downpipe, we might as well go through and pull the entire downpipes out of the car. All right, so there's gonna be 2 bolts on the downpipe itself. You're gonna wanna use a really long extension. This is a 24-inch extension, I believe. Wow, that's tight. Ah. I'm gonna pull this cover off. That way I can get more of a straight shot. It probably would have been easier to loosen loosen these bolts when the car is down. So if you're gonna just lift it up on the jack, you might as well do it on the ground first before doing anything else. Definitely gonna need a swivel for this one. And you have to use a deep socket because the bolt that's coming out of there is pretty long. I hope this swivel lasts, man, because I feel like I'm gonna bust it right now. Let's keep some light on there so I can see if I'm still on it. Ugh. Well, gonna come call the cavalry. I hope you don't bust. The pin came out, but at least it's loose. All right, so now under the car, we're gonna be pulling off those two bolts there that are tainted in orange. And there's one more bolt on the downpipe. You can see it right there. So 14 millimeter, and I think those might be 17s. Let's do the 14 millimeter. Even my big Ugga Dugga doesn't break that. It's gonna have to be my elbow grease. All right, baby, let's go. So that nut has been removed, and now we're gonna pull this one off and then these two and see if we can slide this out. Eventually I want to pull that black bracket that's there. Just unnecessary weight because the full downpipes don't have a spot to mount onto with that. All right, 14 millimeter opening. It's so nice that this car is brand new because although the bolts are pretty tight, they're not seized. This downpipe should be loose except for the oxygen sensor. All right, so I went ahead and stuck my arm up, my left arm through here, pushed it with my index finger, and then with my thumb and my middle finger, I pulled back on the harness. So that's good to go. This thing is loose and ready to come down. I honestly never thought I'd be doing downpipes in my garage. All right, so now you gotta remove that heat shield right there. It's being held by two 10 millimeter bolts. The heat shield's out. All right, so the heat shield's out, and now we have access to that blue safety retainer clip thing. I think it just slides out. Yep. We'll expect some fuel to come out of here now, so get a rag. Nothing really came out. That line is loose now. You can go back up top. All right, so that line should be loose now. Tama mambiche. All right, so now you need the line that has the 90-degree fitting with the 45-degree fitting. The 90-degree fitting is gonna go down to the bottom, and it's gonna get threaded on with this and a 5/8 wrench. I used some shop air to blow out any debris that may have been in here because these weren't capped, just for safe measure. That blue clip that's there, you have to pull off, or else you won't be able to catch the little lip on that fuel line. All right, you see the fitting, the threaded part goes up, which is gonna go into the female part of the line. That one little fitting that threads, you wanna put it down and seat it onto that lip. It'll kind of feel like really snug and it'll lock in place. So then now you bring that line and that fitting onto that small threaded part, and you're gonna tighten it with the 5/8 wrench. For extra access, I'm removing this bracket right here. That way I can make sure that that fuel line is tightened all the way. It's 4 12 millimeter bolts. All right, so once you tighten that fitting, make sure to attach this line back onto that same clip that the previous fuel line was on, and then reinstall the heat shield. If you have to do a downpipe, which I suggest, if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it now. You wanna leave that heat shield off, that way you have a little more access. And then after you install the full downpipes, go ahead and reinstall the heat shield. All right, so now we're gonna grab the flex fuel sensor and assemble this assembly here. I'm gonna pull this out. It's probably to absorb any vibrations. Make sure that sticks very well. Just hold it for a few seconds. Grab this little brace. Put the Allen bolts in there. Grab your number 3 Allen key. Just work one side a little bit and go to the other side and keep keep tightening each side little by little. Do a little tight, little snug here. That ain't going anywhere. All right, so now grab your 2 quick connect fittings, and the same way you did the other line, you're gonna grab this fitting here, anchor it onto that little lip, and you're gonna push this in and just start tightening. Same thing on the other side. This one's gonna be a little visible, so you might wanna tighten it with an AN wrench or something, an aluminum tool, so it doesn't mar it up. Now this sensor's gonna go like right here. Those 2 bolts that the fuel damper were on, those same bolts are gonna go threaded onto this little bracket. And then this line will go onto here. I don't have 2 AN wrenches, so I'm just putting tape over the fitting so I can then tighten this guy right here. So now we connect the straight line onto this flex fuel sensor here. Just add some tape onto the fittings. Don't want to mar them up. You got this other fitting which is going to go onto the high pressure fuel pump. Same concept, threaded part out, seat it, push in the fitting. All right, now you want to install the same bolts that came out of here that were holding the fuel damper. It's gonna go right through. The bracket itself is gonna go in front of the cover. It's nice and tight. That ain't going anywhere, baby. I do, however, love these lines over the nylon braided hoses that we had before on the VR30, because that one, with so many people touching it and stuff, it starts like breaking apart and it looks kind of ratchet. This one does look a little more aesthetically pleasing, and it's gonna remain that way for much longer. All right, so now reinstall these bolts here, hold the water lines. Try to attach this fuel line to that same clip back here. It looks much better now. Now we're gonna go ahead and start wiring the canvas. Gather all your wires and your little ethanol content analyzer. All right, so now you're supposed to grab the black wire off of here, strip it. Look how neat this tool is. It's an automatic stripper. What? I got this thing on Amazon. Of course, I'll leave links in the description. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and get this guy right here. We're gonna crimp it together and crimp it. That ain't going anywhere. So now this goes into here. Loosen this guy and loosen this guy. That way you can pull this out of the way. There's gonna be ground bolt right here. That way you can attach this ring terminal onto it. Let's put these guys back. Gonna loosen this. That way we can route these wires underneath this harness here and let this sucker back. And now we strap it onto that harness right. All right. So now these guys go back under here. And you're supposed to strip about 4 inches. Strip this back a little bit. You gotta pull these apart and splice them. So these guys are gonna get spliced. They're gonna get butt spliced to these right here. You have a white and red, and you have a white and black. All right, so the yellow wire gets spliced into the white and red wire. That's tight. Now obviously the white and black wire gets spliced into the green wire. Noise. And now we gotta disconnect this guy right here. All right, so there's a little clip on the top. Push it, and then this slides down and it pushes up. So now we got to take this apart. There's going to be 2 little prongs right here. So grab a very small flathead screwdriver. So once you put this little locking mechanism back into the locking position, you're going to see these little prongs here. You're going to pull them out and kind of slide this top part back. Same thing here. Pull those prongs back. If you have 2 of these, better. Mine just fell down there. I'm having issues because of this freaking tie strap. That would have been much easier if I would have taken that tie strap out. All right, so now we gotta locate 2 wires. It's gonna be pin 175 and 176. And you can tell it's these because it's the light pink and the light blue, right above that white pin right there. So unwrap this beautifully wrapped OEM wire loom. I got some of this tape at work. I'm gonna bring some. All right, so it's this light pink and the light blue. Follow them and you're gonna make a cut about here. I'm gonna route this guy inside of this cover here. It's more discreet, a little cleaner. YOLO. Strip the other green and yellow wire. You're gonna twist the yellow one with the blue one. Then you're gonna crimp these 2 together. Now you do the green with the pink. You're gonna match the pink, the one with the pink wire to the pink wire, and the blue wire with the blue wire. Don't forget to heat shrink. I thought I had a torch, but apparently not. Don't forget to heat shrink these guys here too. Wrap it all back up. Slide the clip back into place. Get a new zip tie. Like factory. Should lock back into place. All right, so now you're gonna get this guy right here. And then here, underneath the chassis. Your finger game gotta be on point for this stuff. Whenever you see it poking out from the other side. Now, bring it up through here. All right, so we got it nice and tucked there. Now we're gonna connect this to where it says gauge. I think the clip goes to the bottom. Now we're gonna connect this to the other side where it says sensor. All right, so now we gotta run this red wire underneath the cowling out through the brake reservoir side. I'm gonna have to pull the other cowling as well. So now, you see that grommet right there? What we have to do is poke a hole through it with a pick, and we're gonna pull that red wire all the way through, and we're gonna tap a fuse into the fuse inside the cabin. All right, so I just punched through that grommet, punched through the center of the grommet. I made sure I went through. It's not that thick. Literally, it's just a little puncture. So now we have to just run the wire through the grommet. All right, so now we need to run the wire loom over the red wire. Now we're gonna butt splice the red wire to the red wire. I'm gonna cut about 6 inches of wire loom. I'm gonna zip tie the previous wires from the Flex Fuel sensor that went this way. Put one right here for the red wire. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab this guy. So we're gonna pull that 20 amp fuse. So you normally have a little white fuse puller that it stays in here. I guess I never put that fuse puller back after I did that video on 2 methods how to do a burnout in the Nissan Z. So now you put the 20 amp on the forward side of this fuse, then you put this in its place. Probably should have wire loomed this before putting on the fuse thing. There's gonna be a pain in the freaking butt. So make sure to install all your cowlings back. This plug that you removed, you can put it right back as well. Go over all your lines, turn on the car, check to see if you see any fuel leaks. make sure the car is idling fine, make sure you have no codes. Open up your Ecutech. So if you already have a tune and you have your ethanol parameters enabled, you'll go into your dashboard and check to see if you read any ethanol content. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and turn on the car to check for any fuel leaks, but this is gonna be a double whammy because I also just finished doing the full downpipes. So I'll be doing a dedicated full downpipe install video as well as a sound clip. But for now, we're gonna be checking for fuel leaks. Basically, you're gonna get a double whammy. Hopefully it doesn't have any exhaust leaks. All right. Hopefully no fuel leaks. By the way, I already turned on the car and I had an exhaust leak and I turned it off, so it might not be a complete cold start. All right, so high pressure fuel pump checks out okay. Got that fuel line going all the way to the front of the car. Got the fuel line going to the flex fuel sensor, that looks okay. Fuel line, main fuel line going down to the fuel pump lead, that looks good. All right, so I have an exhaust leak on the passenger side, so I gotta address that really quick. All right, so we are gonna be putting some ethanol in the Z. We're gonna be testing to see if the flex fuel is actually working, because for some reason it's stuck on 11%. Previously on my Q50, you would see it kind of fluctuate and read a whole bunch of different numbers. My tuner said that this is more of a filtered reading, so it's not gonna fluctuate. The other one was just capturing a whole bunch of noise. I'm sorry, it's freaking loud here. So it's not gonna fluctuate as much. So I'm gonna put in some ethanol to see if it's reading correctly. Hussein, if you're watching this, I trust you. I installed this, so I'm just trying to troubleshoot this thing. All right, so we got some ethanol in the tank. This is crazy. It's been a long time coming. I've had this car since December of last year. And now is when we're actually putting flex fuel on it. And this is just the beginning. We're gonna be doing so many things to this car, man. I have a surprise for you guys. I cannot say what it is, but let's just say that this car is gonna be extremely fast. So we accidentally put a little too much ethanol. Right now it's at E50. It should be all right. I still have about a quarter of a tank to fill up, so I could just put some 93 in there. And if it's a little above E30, then it is what it is. I don't think anything's really gonna happen to the car. I'll be watching the fuel trims and my knock, and if it's okay at E35, E40, then that's what I'll run. On the next video, I'm gonna be showcasing the downpipe install and the downpipe exhaust sound, so make sure to stay tuned because you don't wanna miss that.